Diversity in sexual orientation and gender identity. Culture and diversity involves more than ethnicity and also involves sexual orientation and gender identity as well. There are many terms to learn when describing people with SOGI diversity. Queer, transgendered, intersexed, pansexual or bisexual, two-spirit, asexual, gender fluid, gender diverse, and non-binary. Queer is an umbrella term for non-heterosexual and non-cisgendered people. It was once used as a slur, but has since been reclaimed by the queer community. Transgendered is a gender identity, not a sexual orientation. It's when expression and presentation of a gender varies from the societal expectations of their sex at birth. Intersexed are people born with a combination of sex characteristics that don't fit either male or female sex categories. It happens in about 1 in 100 births. It's quite common. And for reference, it's as common as being born with red hair. Bisexual is somebody who's attracted to the person regardless of their gender. Pansexual is similar to bisexual, but it also rejects the idea of binary identities and sexualities. Two-spirit is a term for Indigenous people. You must be Indigenous to be two-spirit. It's a translation of the Anishinaabe woman or Ojibwe term Nish Manitowa, meaning two spirits. A person identifies as having both masculine and feminine spirit. It may encompass sexual, gender, or spiritual identity, or describe a role in the community. The tradition of the two-spirit has been around for a long time in Indigenous culture. They once held a very special role in the community known as the balance keeper that would help resolve disputes. Different indigenous nations use different terms. The Lakota use the term winkte, and the Navajo use the term nadli. It's not unnatural, not evil, not perverse, just all things in balance and everything in divine order. Asexual people are people who don't experience sexual attraction, but this can happen to varying degrees. They may still have romantic relationships with attractions that are emotional rather than physical. Gender fluid means having a gender identity that changes. And gender diverse are people whose gender identity, gender expression, or gender transition differs from what is expected. Normative labels are what we refer to as the ways of living, patterns of thinking, cultures, and institutions that follow the so-called status quo. A cisgendered person is a person who identifies their gender as matching with their assigned sex at birth. So if they were born male, they identify as male. Heterosexual is a person who identifies as attracted either sexually or romantically to people of the opposite biological sex at birth. Language and labels are constantly changing, and it can be difficult to stay up to date. It's less important to know all the labels than to listen to what they mean to a given person. If you're ever unsure what to call somebody, just ask them. Remember, it doesn't hurt you to refer to them in a different way, but it certainly hurts them to ignore the request.